Hello, my name is Raquel Sanchez. I'm a lecturer in the Department of Business Organization and member of the Research Center on Production Management and Engineering at Universitat Politécnica de Valencia. And in this presentation, which is part of the Business Continuity Managers Training Platform project funded by the European Commission, I will explain the main highlights related to crisis management. The learning outputs of this presentation are focused on defining what a crisis management plan consists of and on describing the steps to develop and maintain a crisis management plan. The presentation is structured as follows. Firstly, there is an introduction describing what a crisis management plan is. The second section details the steps to define it, to finish in section 3 with the conclusions. A crisis management plan is a comprehensive and structured framework designed to guide an organization's response and actions in the event of a crisis or emergency situation. The steps to develop and maintain a crisis management plan are, firstly, to assess company threats. The second step is to develop a crisis management plan. Test the crisis management plan is the third step, to finish with monitoring threats and reviewing the crisis management plan. When developing a crisis management plan, the first step is to identify the threats relevant to the organization and industry, and assess the likelihood and the severity of the impact of these threats. To identify the threats, organizations can ask themselves some questions such as the ones shown in the slide. After having identified the main threats, organization assess them for likelihood to occur and the expected severity of the impact, obtaining a risk analysis matrix such as the one shown. Then, organization should prepare mitigation actions to minimize the risk, as well as responses, actions, scenarios about how the organization will respond to each of these threats occurring. The second step is focused on developing a crisis management plan, so that to be effective needs to include a variety of elements related to personnel, resources, facilities, employee health and safety, business operations management, resource coordination and communication, to mention a few. Usually, people respond to crises with confusion, so it's important to establish detailed response action plans. So, organizations must be proactively prepare these action plans. Life safety should always be the priority, and develop communication protocols and procedures to alert first responders such as public emergency services. Moreover, when planning actions for response to crisis, organizations should define controls to ensure actions don't compromise products or services safety. In this sense, the actions specified must be clear. Assign specific roles to groups or individuals to ensure product availability, and also consider the cause of the crisis and the ways to avoid disruption. The step of developing a crisis management plan should also identify availability of resources and determine backup sources for critical systems. It's necessary to determine the resources and tools needed to effectively deal with an incident, how to use them, and by whom. These resources can be information system, communication tools, supporting processes, and sources of critical information. The last element in the step of developing a crisis management plan is to define key performance indicators to monitor plan effectiveness. This table shows some metrics that can be used to analyze if the crisis management plan is performing well. The crisis management plan should be tested to prove that it's operational, either in an actual crisis or through test and simulation exercises. The main objectives of testing are staff training and awareness, crisis management team members understand their role and responsibilities, make sure the plan is functional and includes all necessary actions, and after completing each exercise, analyze the results, what went well and what didn't. A crisis management plan is a dynamic document and should be constantly updated with changes occurring in business, employees, and threat scenarios. The updated plan requires to be communicated to all stakeholders and team members, approved, and be tested and exercised as appropriate. As a summary, it is worth mentioning a crisis management plan describes how to deal with critical situations that would negatively affect an organization's profitability, customer reputation, or ability to operate. The process to create a crisis management plan consists of assess company threats and take action to reduce identified risk, write the plan considering specific response action plans, test such a plan to prove that it's operational, and finally, revise and update the plan regularly to confirm its effectiveness in the event of a real crisis. And with the conclusions of this learning material, the presentation is finished. Thank you very much for your attention.